Just business news, we're news for business people.
Good morning, you're watching Daybreak on Bloomberg Quint Live and I'm Alex Matthew. Here are the headlines. Asian stocks have opened mixed after Wall Street closed at record highs on optimism that the Trump administration's tax bill will soon be passed.
इन सभी चुनाव नतीजों ने एक बात सिद्ध कर दी है कि देश रिफॉर्म के लिए तैयार है।
Narendra Modi says the election results are a vindication of BJP's development politics. Amit Shah says it's a victory of development over dynasty. Congress improves its tally in Gujarat but slumps in Himachal. Rahul Gandhi says the Congress fought anger with dignity. Union Minister Piyush Goyal says that the BJP's victory in so-called GST-affected areas shows that the adverse impact of GST was overstated. Let's start with the international markets first. US stocks closed at all-time highs on Monday as investors look forward to a vote on the Trump administration's tax bill. A number of corporate deals also helped lift sentiment. Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle wraps up all that happened in the US market.
Monday's Wall Street session proved to be quite bullish for stocks in the U.S. The Dow, S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all carved out new all-time highs, finished at record closing highs, so the bulls, the buyers, are in charge. The spark for the rally seems to be what it's been quite a bit recently, tax reform, or at least the possibility of it, especially as congressional Republicans are getting closer to likely, perhaps, passing a unified tax overhaul bill to present to President Trump before the holiday break. Now, relative to the sector composition for the S&P 500, 8 of the 11 sectors higher, not surprisingly, a broad-based rally. Materials up top, up 1.5%, helped by many of the metal and mining stocks, including Nucor, Freeport-McMoRan, Newmont Mining. Those stocks were outperforming in a big way. Tech, another top sector, up about 0.9%. Lots of tech names higher, including Apple and Alphabet, plus lots of the chip stocks, the SOX, or the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, up about 2%. Behind that, Intel up 3.5%. We also had AMD up more than 6%. Now, one tailwind for AMD or Advanced Micro Devices, that could have been Bitcoin. Bitcoin did make its debut on the CME, yet another futures trading market exchange where Bitcoin was up about more than 5%. So giving a tailwind to AMD, which makes chips that go into cryptocurrencies. And then finally, Twitter soaring, having its best day in about 2 months, up about 11% on an upgrade to overweight at JP Morgan. The firm is saying that it is a top name in the SMID space, small to mid cap space, for 2018. And it is worth noting that Bloomberg LP does have a partnership, an online news network with Twitter. Overall, though, a day of record highs for stocks, lots of bullish activity. In New York, Abigail Doolittle, Bloomberg News.
Now, President Donald Trump has said that the US would pursue what he called a muscular foreign policy, which reflects his America First campaign promise. He said this in a speech introducing his first national security strategy document. The document describes the Trump administration's approach to a range of global issues, including North Korea's nuclear program, international terrorism, Russian aggression, and China's rising influence. China and Russia have both been described in the document as revisionist powers that are trying to change the status quo where the US is the world's only superpower. But Trump was more conciliatory in his speech, saying the two nations were both potential rivals and partners. Here's a part of that speech.
We also face rival powers, Russia and China, that seek to challenge American influence, values, and wealth. We will attempt to build a great partnership with those and other countries, but in a manner that always protects our national interest.
Now, Asian stocks have started the session on a positive note, but after having risen as much as 0.25% in early trade, the Nikkei in Japan has given up most of those gains. It's currently, oops, it actually has, so it fell to as much as 0% and then rose again. So it's as much as 1.5%, a big change there. So it's a lot of volatility that you can see in the Japanese benchmark there. We'll have to see how Asian markets pan out. Obviously, a lot of positivity seeping in from the US markets that we already told you about. But on to the trade setup for the day. Darshan Mehta and Agam Vakil are here to tell you everything that you need to know going into trade and all that's happening in the F&O space. Morning, guys. Darshan, to you first. How's it looking?
Good morning, Alex. It doesn't look bad at all because the SGX Nifty is indicating a gap up of almost 30 points at this point of time. So it's trading higher. Again, post the election, the rally did happen. We opened yesterday very weak, but then the recovery is clearly there as far as the markets are concerned. Even as you pointed out, most of the Asian markets are doing well. The ADR picture was also very, very good. Wipro gained. Vedanta, the commodity cycle continues for Vedanta. ICICI, Tata Motors. So Infosys was pretty much the only counter which was ended in the negative, and that was also very, very muted. As far as crude is concerned, crude is trading muted today after dropping almost 0.2% overnight. There is significant amount of traction that's there in crude. Oil trades near the $57 mark as US crude stockpile extend drop. So the price is being maintained at that level. Mixed closing for the base metals on LME. A couple of them did well, couple of them didn't. So nickel was up almost 2.2%, lead was up 1%, tin was up almost 1%. Aluminium and copper did well, and zinc was down almost 0.3%. So that's the queue as far as LME is concerned. Muted start for commodities in China. A couple of them doing well, couple of them not. Copper is up almost 0.4%. Iron ore is down almost 0.6%, and rubber is down almost 1% in trade. Now, as far as gold is concerned, gold snaps the two-day rally, closes almost 0.5% higher in overnight trade. Now, as far as fund flows are concerned, FI sold in almost 430 crores in the cash market, but DIs were heavy buyers. They bought in almost 1,075 crores in the cash market. So even if you look at the month-to-date basis, FIs have been net sellers to the tune of almost 2,700 crores in the cash market, but heavy buying by DIs, almost 6,000 crores of net buying has happened by DIs. If you're looking at the trade setup, the VIX cracked almost 12% given the fact that the rally did happen after a weak opening. Which were the counters that rallied? So auto, metal were up almost 1%, even the pharma index, the PSU banking index, all of them gained. PSU banking index was one of the best performers, up almost 2.3%. As far as the trade Nifty setup is concerned, 55 points up on the Nifty. What contributed? Banks, metals. So ICICI Bank, SBI contributed, Vedanta contributed the most, Maruti did contribute. But what didn't? Some of the private banks like Kotak, Yes Bank, ITC has been sort of a drag, and Infosys. So that's the trade setup. Bagam, what's the FNOQ like?
Well, then if we did make a dash to around 10,400, so quite clearly we are seeing some amount of strength coming back. When it comes to the futures and options space, let's pull up the futures. We're looking at unwinding around 1.4% in its open interest. And speaking of the Nifty Bank futures too, what we've seen is while the index has moved up by as much as 0.6%, we've seen a decline of around 30% in open interest, so unwinding seen there as well. The India VIX, as Darshan just mentioned, has cracked by well over 12%. In fact, now inching near the mark of 13. So now that the event is done with, there is going to be a more contraction in option premiums. With respect to the put-call ratio, well, we have seen it move further because the Nifty has also moved up further. So it's currently standing at around 1.3. And in terms of the changes in open interest, let's take a look at that chart where we have seen substantial increase and decrease for that matter. So puts have seen substantial writing in the 10,400 put, and unwinding, as you can see here, in 10,400, 10,300 calls. No stocks moving in or out of the F&O band, but we are watching out for Page Industries, which saw fresh longs building in. And another stock which saw fresh longs was DCB Bank. On the other hand, UPL did see some amount of weakness with the stock moving down as much as 1%, 9.5% added in open interest. So we'll be watching out for some of these stocks as we move into today's day of trade, Alex.
Right, Agam. Thanks for that. It's quite likely that you caught some of the extensive coverage of the assembly election results in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh yesterday. But here's a wrap on everything that happened. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has retained power in Gujarat for the 6th term. The party has won 99 seats. That's comfortably above the majority mark of 92. But the performance was well below what the exit polls had projected. The vote share of the BJP also slumped from the 2014 Lok Sabha elections and came in at 49%. The Congress improved its performance from the 2014 and 2012 polls in terms of both vote share and seat share. The Congress improved its seat tally by 20 seats, while the BJP's seat share fell by 22 seats. The Congress, for their part, have called their performance in Gujarat a moral victory. BJP recorded a resounding win in Himachal Pradesh. It secured 44 seats out of the total 68 seats. The Congress got 21 seats, 15 lower than its 2012 tally. The BJP got a vote share of nearly 49% compared with the Congress share of 42%. Outgoing Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh won the Arki Assembly seat, defeating BJP's candidate Ratan Singh Pal. BJP's chief ministerial face for the Himachal Pradesh polls, Prem Kumar Dhumal, was defeated in the Sujanpur Assembly seat that he contested. Now, Prime Minister Modi has hailed the election results as an extraordinary victory for the government's developmental politics. He also said that India is ready to reform, transform and perform. Listen in.
इन सभी चुनाव नतीजों ने एक बात सिद्ध कर दी है कि देश रिफॉर्म के लिए तैयार है, परफॉर्म करने वाली हर बात को पॉजिटिव देख रहा है और ट्रांसफॉर्म होने के संबंध में भरपूर विश्वास रखती है। ये चुनाव लगातार दिखा रहे। 2014 मई में लोकसभा के चुनाव के बाद इस देश में विकास का एक माहौल बना है। एक ऐसी सरकार है जिसमें निर्णय लेने की ताकत है। एक ऐसी सरकार है जिसकी नीयत में कोई खोट नहीं है। एक ऐसी सरकार है जिसकी नीतियां साफ सुथरा है। एक ऐसी सरकार है जो कलेक्टिव लीडरशिप को लेकर के चलती है।
Now, Union Minister Piyush Goyal says that the BJP victory in so-called GST-affected areas shows that the adverse impact of GST was overstated. Speaking to Bloomberg Quint's Tamanna Inamdar, Goyal said that the rural-urban divide in votes is a myth, as both the BJP and the Congress had a similar vote share of 45%. Here's a slice of that conversation.
We've got 49% of the votes, and in the entire GST affected areas, if at all you want to call them that, Surat, we swept the election. Ahmedabad swept the election. Rajkot, Parur. I think GST or the Patidar Andolan has not had an impact other than the Congress effort to vitiate and bring the election down to caste and communal issues, make derogatory comments about the Honorable Prime Minister. Other than vitiating the atmosphere, I don't think these issues have had an impact on the election result. The big picture is that we fight every election to win every seat. So in that sense, the numbers may change, the vote share remains intact. With a much lesser vote share, we got 325 out of 400 seats in UP. So every election and every state has its own dynamics.
Okay, if you don't see this as some kind of a decision on GST, would you then concede to the analysis coming out today that there is an urban-rural divide? What has pulled the BJP through are the urban strongholds, and Gujarat is a highly urbanized state, which is why you're absolutely correct when you mention Surat, Rajkot, Ahmedabad constituencies. But when you look at Amreli, when you look at Gir, when you look at rural areas, there has been a shift to the Congress, and that perhaps resonates with farmer distress and other issues like that. Is the BJP seized of that voice despite or in spite of the victory, Mr. Goyal?
Madam, every election we always introspect, we always see what we should do better, what we can do better. But even in this situation, if you look at the voting in the rural areas, the vote share of the Congress and BJP is almost at the same level. They've certainly got more seats there, and they've gained in that, and one must recognize that. But the fact is that even there, the vote share hasn't been as if we've drastically come down. We are at 45% both, Congress and the BJP. So in that sense, that the rural areas also have been equally turning out for both the BJP and the Congress. And even in the past, the vote share has not been very much different in the rural Gujarat. The second important point is farmers across the country went through almost 3 years of drought. Even in the current year, we saw some parts of India getting very good rainfall and other parts of India getting very little rainfall. So while the national mean was good, different states saw the monsoon differently. So we've had issues, we've had challenges. Different states have addressed them in different manners. In Gujarat also, I'm sure our state leadership will be looking at what happened and what needs to be done going forward.
Just one word on the young leaders, and this is something which has been pointed out by a number of BJP leaders, so I'm sure you will agree that while top Congress leaders may have lost some of their seats, the trio of Alpesh Jignesh and those backed by Hardik Patel did phenomenally in their seats. And this is also a resonance of the young voice who wants affirmative action because he is not getting jobs. Now the BJP's answer has been, well, go start your own business. Is that the messaging that you will take forward, sir, in the remainder of this government's term at the centre?
Well, Gujarat is a state of enterprise entrepreneurs, and I think in Gujarat we have seen more entrepreneurs spring up over the last many years than probably anywhere else in the country. It's a state of young people who are very enterprising, who look at starting their own business and go across the world and become successful entrepreneurs. Having said that, I think every government across the world is seized of the challenges of the changing nature of jobs in the world, with the advent of technology, with new ways of doing work and business. This is going to be something which the whole world is working towards. I've said it on many occasions that the traditional jobs in the old sense of the term is not the way of the future. For example, we used to set up a large thermal power plant. It gave 5, 6, 10,000 jobs and produced a certain amount of electricity. Now that same amount of electricity is produced through renewable sources or newer forms of technology, providing maybe 10 times the number of people a working opportunity, but not necessarily a structured job in the traditional sense of the term. So the world is evolving. India is a part of that evolution.
Piyush Goyal there on the election results. But let's now take a look at what the brokerages make of the outcome of those two elections. First up, Axis Capital believes that the election results will now put the focus back on the government reforms since they have received clear public support. Credit Suisse's Neelkant Mishra, however, believes that the victories may serve as a wake-up call for the BJP and that they are unlikely to interpret them as business as usual. However, he doesn't see the scope for fiscal slippage despite the likely increase in focus on rural development. CLSA believes that the closer than expected contest between the BJP and the Congress will see further focus on pro-poor policies from the government. The note also focuses on whether Congress President Rahul Gandhi can bring all opposition parties together before the 2019 general elections. Let's move on to the other markets now, and let's take a check on the rupee and the bond market. Saloni Dhanuka has all the updates in those two markets. Saloni, morning.
Good morning, Alex. So it's been quite a volatile session for the Indian rupee yesterday. In line with local equity market, the rupee too ended lower after BJP managed to win assembly elections, but with fewer than expected seats. Now, early morning yesterday, the currency crashed nearly 1% against the dollar to hit an intraday low of 64.74 levels after trends suggested a close fight between two political parties. However, the rupee managed to recover most of the losses and it ended ended the day 0.3% lower at 64.24 levels against the dollar. Now on the global front, euro edged higher after inflation data came in line with market expectations. It came in at 1.5% on a year-on-year basis for the month of November, while the pound consolidated gains above 1.3350 levels against the dollar throughout the day after industrial order data showed that manufacturing orders gained at 30-year high. Now on a wider perspective, Brexit and political uncertainty will continue to weigh on the pound. Regarding the greenback, all eyes will be on US Congress that it is expected to deliver a final version of the tax reform announcement in the coming week itself. Now coming back home, dollar rupee is trading flat in the non-deliverable forward market, which indicates a flat opening for Indian rupee in today's trade. Now moving on to bond market, 10-year benchmark bond yield ended 5 basis points higher at 7.18%, while global funds increased their rupee debt holdings for the second consecutive session yesterday. They infused close to 17 crore according to NSDL data, Alex.
Right, thanks for that, Saloni. And let's shift now from the currency market to the commodities space. Jayesh Kilnani joins with all the updates in that market. Jayesh, morning.
Morning, Alex. Let me start off with the base metal space because that is where we saw a strong close for all of the base metals on the London Metal Exchange. The index itself closed higher for the fourth consecutive session. So nickel was up more than 2%, while copper and aluminium gained less than 1%, and lead and tin surged more than 1% each. As far as iron ore prices are concerned on the Dalian Commodity Exchange, that has seen a gain of about 2%, and in the last 2 days we've seen iron ore prices jump as much as 7 to 8%. Now, brokerages on various commodities, I thought JP Morgan's was the interesting one, where they see that aluminium prices will fall as the demand from China is likely to come in lower. Moving on to the precious metal space, we've seen that gold has climbed above the 1260 mark. In fact, it closed 0.6% higher. That is on account of the dollar index, which saw a cut of 0.25%. Going on to oil prices, we've seen Brent is trading above the 63 mark and WTI above the 57 mark. Now, a couple of reasons why we've seen the jump in oil prices. Oil workers in Nigeria have suspended the strike that was ongoing over there, and also that the repairs to the North Sea pipeline crack that was discovered a couple of weeks back, the repair works are on schedule, and that's the reason we are seeing an uptick in oil prices.
Right, thanks for that, Jayesh. And now let's move on to the stock of the day. Edelweiss expects a 70% upside in Godavari Power, with higher demand from Indian sponge iron producers and China aiding its volumes. Darshan Mehta has more on that Edelweiss call. Darshan?
So, Alex, Edelweiss has put a target price of 395 on Godavari Power. The counter has been rallying for the past few days. Again, the note has come up. What they're saying is that the entire industry is seeing a structural demand shift from low to high quality iron ore. And what Godavari part does is it gives the raw material for the high quality iron ore. So it's one of the lowest cost producers of pellets, which is the raw material in India, with almost 2.1 million ton capacity in Chhattisgarh. They're saying they see a lot of rising demand that's coming in from Indian DRI producers, and China is also aiding a lot of volumes for them. The company is backward integrated, and that will help them significantly with their cash flows. And with the cash flows that will come in, the company over the next 3 years will be able to reduce debt significantly, and that is what they are targeting. They're saying demand for pellets in the Indian market is expected to grow at a high double-digit level, so they are positive on that. And valuation-wise, they've valued it at an EV/EBITDA of 5 times on an FY19 basis. The counter has been buzzing, so watch out for this counter.
Absolutely, watching out for that stock in today's trade, but there are also several other stocks that you have to pay attention to, and Shraddha Babla has an entire list of the stocks in news. Morning, Shraddha, what do you have for us?
Morning, Alex. A couple of mid-cap names actually which could be active in trade today. Starting off with LT Foods, where the company's QIP issue has opened. It has set its floor price at 79.13. That's a 2 to 3% discount to yesterday's closing price. So again, we could see some marginal negative reaction on that counter. JM Financial, which is approved raising 650 crores via various securities. A couple of interesting bulk deals, while some of them already reacted in trade yesterday. Let's see how they do today, but interesting names out there. Kedan Infra, where the government of Singapore has bought 1.2% stake in a bulk deal yesterday. You also have Orchid Pharma, where Serum Institute of India has sold 0.9% stake. Now they had about 5.4% stake at the end of September. And remember, there was an interesting article in ET yesterday which said that Aurobindo Pharma and Dr. Reddy's are eyeing this company. So it did see or end 5% higher yesterday, but let's see how it reacts today. Bharat Wire Ropes was another one where Sanjay Dangi's Mentor Capital bought 0.6% stake yesterday. So again, that's another name that you should keep an eye out for. And interestingly, South Indian Bank is going to meet a couple of potential investors such as Kotak Mutual Fund, L&T Mutual Fund, ICICI Pru Mutual Fund, Goldman Sachs and White Oak Capital today. And not only that, they're likely to meet a clutch of investors over this week itself. So let's see how that one reacts as well. So these are some of the names you should keep an eye out for.
Right, Shraddha. And Somit Sarkar has come across a few interesting brokerage calls that he wants to tell you about. He's here to do just that. Morning, Somit.
Good morning, Alex. On the brokerages, first we have is Kotak Securities on Talbos Automotive. Now they have initiated coverage on the stock with a buy rating and a target price of 389. The company is a market leader in the gasket business that forms around 67% of the consolidated revenue of the company, and growth in passenger car segment would drive this gasket business going forward according to the brokerage. The company also has a forging business which contributes close to 19% to the consolidated revenue of the company, and this forging business is seeing surge in orders, and multiple order win gives a visibility of strong revenue growth in the forging business. The company also has 3 joint ventures which has been seeing some strong revenue traction according to the brokerage. Going forward, the brokerage is expecting heat shield to be a big opportunity for the company. Also, robust earnings and limited capital expenditure would drive the company's return on equity. Now they are expecting the return on equity to expand to 18% by financial year 2020. Largely they are expecting the debt to remain stable, but the net debt to equity to reduce going forward. Also, they are expecting the company's revenue to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 16% and net profit to double over FY17 to FY20. Lastly, strong growth in automotive demand, new product technology introduction, new order wins and focus in the export business are the positives when it comes to Talbos Automotive. Second, we have is Spark Capital on PSP projects. Now they have initiated coverage on the stock with a buy rating and a target price of 640. Now they are saying that the company will benefit from the upcoming industrial and institutional building projects in Gujarat. Now they are saying that they are expecting a conservative order inflow of close to 1200 to 1500 crore rupees annually for the next 2 years. Now they are saying that given the healthy free cash flow of the company, they will comfortably fund their future capital expenditure and working capital needs. Now they are expecting the company's revenue, EBITDA and net profit to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 49%, 49% and 46% over FY18 to FY20. They are saying that the top line growth will mainly come in from execution of the Surat Diamond Exchange project that the company has recently won. Lastly, a lean balance sheet, prudent working capital management and profitable execution are the positive when it comes to PSP projects. But they are saying that beyond FY20, the visibility of order inflow and sustainability of high growth could be a challenge for the company. Third, we have is Spark Capital on Capacit Infra Projects. Now they have initiated coverage on the stock with an ad rating and a target price of 400. A long-term opportunity exists for the company as its clients are most trusted by the home buyers. The company has key clients like Godrej, Wadhwa, Lodha, Brigade, Oberoi, Kalpatru, etc. And going forward, repeat order from these clients and opportunities from selective new geographies are likely to benefit the company. Also, the brokerage is expecting the company to get projects worth 2,000 to 2,600 crore rupees annually going forward every year. Also, the brokerage is saying that the company's focus to win more projects in the design and build mode will give a positive surprise when it comes to the margins. Lastly, they're expecting the company's revenue, EBITDA and net profit to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 24%, 22% and 30% over FY18 and to FY20. Also, they are saying that the working capital situation will be stable going forward and the cash flows would be sufficient to meet the outflows.
Thanks, Amit, for that wrap on all those brokerage calls for today. Now, there's clearly lots to talk about. There may not be a lot of stock-specific information, but clearly the overarching theme of yesterday might just flow into today's market coverage as well. But there are also a few stories that we have to talk about with regard to the website BloombergQuint.com. First up, widening its probe into Bitcoin investments and trade, the Income Tax Department is set to issue notices to 4 to 5 lakh high net worth individuals across the country who were trading on the exchanges of this unregulated virtual currency. Adani Enterprises will build Australia's largest coal mine by itself after cancelling a planned $1.5 billion deal with Australia's Downer EDI Limited to help construct the Carmichael project in the Queensland state of Australia. Well, that's all we have for you on this edition of Daybreak, but all you need to know is up next. Do stay tuned. This is Bloomberg Quint.